Traveling overseas can be stressful, but throw in a hazing incident and, well, keep watching, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is part 2 of my trip to Italy. See the link above for the first part. In summary to the first part, in 1982, I was in the Air Force, and I got an assignment to Mount Nardello, a small mountaintop site in Italy. And the trip started from Cheyenne, Wyoming to Denver, Colorado to JFK in New York. And from there, I caught a flight to Rome. And on that flight, I encountered an activist group that were against nuclear weapons, and they were none too happy about sharing the flight with an Air Force member. And when we left off, I was sitting at the gate in Rome waiting for a domestic flight to Reggio Calabria, and this would be my last flight before I meet the guys from Mount Nardello. While we were waiting, an attendant came to collect our tickets, and the people got in line. I got in line too, and I looked outside, and I did not see a plane. And I thought, well, that's rather odd, but we went out the door to board, and that took us to a flight of steps, went down the steps outside, and there was a shuttle waiting for us. Okay, the shuttle's going to take us out to the tarmac where a plane is waiting. I get it. Well, so got on the shuttle. We were all crowded in there, shoulder to shoulder, and well, I could definitely tell who had showered that morning, who used deodorant, who did not, who had brushed their teeth, who smokes, and so on. You know, I probably didn't smell so good myself. I'd been traveling for quite a while. But as we were going along, I saw that there's this little boy shoved up against my leg, just looking up at me and staring at me. And, well, I had some gum, so I gave him a stick of gum. He was glad to have it. His dad noticed, though, pulled this boy closer to him and gave me a threatening look. So everybody's swaying back and forth, but the bus pulled up to a plane. The doors opened, everybody jumped out and started running as fast as they could. Now, I'm confused. I wonder what is going on. Well, I jumped out and ran as fast as I could along with everyone else. And then I said, oh, okay. There are no assigned seats. Everybody wants to get the seat that they really want. That's why. On the plane, I ended up in a window seat. Not my usual preference. I prefer aisle seat. But if you watch my last video, I talked about getting a headache during my trip. Well, I still had a headache and it was getting worse. But the plane took off. The co-pilot came back every so often walking through the plane. He was an acting steward. If people wanted anything like water, Coke, or whatever, they had to literally grab him to get him to, serve them. But being I was in the window seat, I could not reach over to him. So I couldn't grab him, and I could not get anything to help me with my headache. Just a quick reminder to like and subscribe, okay? About an hour later, the plane landed in Reggio Calabria. We got off the plane, went down the steps onto the tarmac, and as I was walking to the steps going up to the gate, I was hoping there'd be somebody from Mount Nardello, the Air Force guys there waiting for me. Got to the gate, looked around, didn't see anybody that looks American to me, and I thought, oh boy, well, fine. I'll go walk up and down the concourse and look for anybody that looks American or looks like they might be in the Air Force. I walked up and down the concourse, and I was hoping there'd be somebody that would see me looking for a lost sheep. No one. This seemed like a great time to panic. That was a dentist doesn't know moment. But then I noticed this tall black guy off to the side, and I thought, well, he does not look Italian to me, so I walked his way. He saw me coming toward him and tried to hide his face. I walked up to him and I said, "Are you from Mount Nardello?" And he said, "Yeah, we've been watching you walk around and around the airport, just having fun. Come on, guys, you come out of hiding. He's on to us." And these other 3 fellas came out from behind chairs and a wall, and then the guy said, "Well, let's go get your luggage and get out of here." And I agreed. He was Lenny, who became my best friend at Mount Nardello. We walked out of the building. The first thing I noticed was the noise coming from the street, cars honking their horns, people yelling, and also the smell, like car exhaust and food cooking. And we walked to the parking lot, and there was an extended cab pickup truck painted dark blue, so there was no mistaking that for an Air Force vehicle. And the guy said, "Well, first thing we need to do is look around the pickup and underneath it for any attached bombs." So they started making a show of looking around the pickup and underneath it, looking at me sideways, like, and looked disappointed because I had no reaction. I was just thinking, well, right now a bomb would be a great cure for my headache. Well, we got into the pickup truck. I sat in the back seat right between two of my newfound friends, and Lenny started driving. This is the point when I had a reaction. The streets were crazy. It was a madhouse. Cars were honking their horns, people yelling at each other, cars cutting off other cars, nobody sticking to one lane, cars and buses going down the wrong way in one-way streets, nobody following the traffic lights. And I said, wow, how can anybody drive here? I mean, Lenny was having no problem at all. He was cutting off other cars with the bigger pickup that we had. The guys had their windows open. They were yelling out at other drivers, giving them suggestions. And I said, how can anybody learn to drive here? And Lenny said, oh, it's not hard. It's you get used to it. And besides, in 2 weeks, you're scheduled to drive down here for a supply run from Nardello. And I said, what? I almost forgot about my headache for a second or two. We were starting to leave the main part of Reggio, going down some unbelievably narrow streets and out of town. And we went through some small villages and into rural areas. And there was a stretch of road that had some big trees on either side. The guys were saying, well, there's a terrorist group, the Red Brigade, that sometimes hides behind those trees. They don't like Americans and they might shoot at us. So we need to slump down for safety. And then they're looking at me sideways, looking for a reaction. And all I was thinking is that getting shot would be a welcome relief for this headache. We start climbing up a very narrow one-lane mountain road with some very sharp switchbacks. And the shotgun rider had a button on his side that he was pushing that honked the pickup's horn. And they explained that that was so that the driver could concentrate on the road, and also so that vehicles coming from the front could hear us coming, especially around the switchbacks. And then that way they could back up to one of the few wider areas to let us by, because we were the bigger vehicle and we could win the contest of who backs up. Snow started to appear on the side and on the road. And that's when I noticed that there are no guardrails and the edge of the road was a sheer drop. Yeah. But the guy said that since the site was on a mountaintop, we had Arctic conditions and it snows a lot in the winter. And I could see that they were right. Snow was piling up a few feet on the side and everything was white. We finally made it to the site. There was a guard shack and there were Italian soldiers. They opened up the gate to the site for us. It was dark and cold by now, but the site was lit up with orange light. The guy showed me the dorm, a long Quonset looking like building. We walked in. There was a fellow who introduced himself as the first sergeant, and he said, well, you're probably tired from your long trip. That was an understatement. So he'll show me to my room. The room was full of furniture. The first sergeant said that they've been putting unwanted furniture in the room, and anything I didn't want, I can just put out in the hallway. Then there was a bed, and thank God that's all I needed. Then the first sergeant said, we'll get you up in the morning for breakfast. I shut the door, jumped into bed, told my headache, go away now. I'm going to sleep. And this would be home for the next 12 months. That's it, folks. Be sure to like and subscribe. There's more that Dennis doesn't know.